Alrighty, folks, welcome back. Happy President's Day. Before we get the show rolling, let's all take a second and enjoy the fact that we as a nation finally have a real president again. A man who took a bullet for us and is currently working 30 hours a day to fix our broken nation. Let's also take a minute to reflect back on the massive bullet we all dodged. Kamala Harris just dropped her latest word salad, and since she isn't and will never be our president, let's all sit back and enjoy her laughable illiteracy.
For those rights to be maintained, which means we have to be vigilant, and it's just the nature of it. I mean, look at this beautiful play and everything that we know he ended up, he had to suppress so much. But he knew, and he took those risks, but we have to be clear-eyed. And it doesn't mean we don't see the beauty in everything, right? These things all coexist. But I believe we fight for something, not against something. Right. And that's our optimism, right?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, with that,
I'm not sure it's worse, that ridiculous word salad commentary, oh, let's all be clear-eyed, or the reporters going, like they're moaning in agreement with Kamala Harris, and when she says absolutely nothing. This is the problem. You don't hate the legacy media enough. Those reporters were only there to, I guess, scratch Kamala Harris's back. I'll use a nice term, okay? They weren't there being journalists. That's not nowhere near that. Let's all be clear-eyed. Okay, right, journalists. We got plenty more to discuss, so always, let's react. And as we all enjoy this President's Day and its symbolism, it's ridiculous that the Democrats suddenly don't want a President's Day anymore. All
right, so the headline here is presidential historian says President's Day is ridiculous. We should scrap it? What do you mean?
It is a little bit silly. I mean, we have had some real duds, so I'm not sure we really want to be celebrating all presidents. And the tradition actually comes from celebrating birthdays, which is a celebration that we inherited from celebrating the king. And I'm just not sure that that's exactly what we want. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that we necessarily want to celebrate the people. I think that we want to have a certain respect for the office. I totally get that. And some have done extraordinary things, but by celebrating all of them, I do think it causes us to think of the president as somehow other, when in reality they are a citizen just like everyone else.
So you mentioned this earlier in the show, the idea that Trump posted something just over the weekend where he quoted Napoleon Bonaparte-esque, saying, "He who saves his country does not violate any law." It feels like exactly the example of what you're saying we should push against.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think if we think of a president as someone to celebrate just because they exist, which is what the king was, and that's why they celebrated the king's birthday, then it does evolve into that argument that they can do no wrong.
Unbelievable. No, we're celebrating the greatest country on the planet, and our Constitution says we have a president. We don't have a king, we have a president. We don't have a dictator, we have a president that's term limited. So stop with that crap. We've had great presidents. Lincoln, Washington, Reagan, Trump. Celebrate them. Yeah, there's bad ones, there's bad of everything. Idiots, liberals, the elite Democrats will never learn from their election losing mistakes. SNL thought it would be wise to have Tom Hanks, of all people, come on and mock Trump. Take a look at how that went.
Oh, thank you. Hey, now speaking of church, can I say something? If more folks went to church, we wouldn't be in this mess we're in now.
You know what? I agree with you, Doug. I'd like to shake your hand, sir. Here we go.
No,
oh, no.
Like that.
Oh, no. It's just a handshake. Yeah, it's just a handshake. Yeah, all right. You're welcome in Black Jeopardy anytime.
All right. Well, thank you, my brother. Maybe I'll start a show for you to come on, and we'll call it What Jeopardy?
No. We don't need it. We don't need it.
I mean, not even funny, SNL. Not even fun. Tom Hanks, you piece of shit. What, are you kidding me? You mocking every MAGA, that's other Make America Great Again. You mocking every Trump supporter? You calling us, throw us in that same bullshit like we're bigots or racists or some crap like that, you nut job. Oh my God. So we care about our religion? Is this something that you guys on the left disagree with? Again, Trump said, what do liberals push back on when he says make America great again? They can't handle it. It's just because it's his idea. Clown. Tom Hanks, we had enough of you too. Isn't your 15 minutes up? We can always rely on CBS, by the way, specifically Face the Nation for our daily dose of BS. Here's the latest from Margaret Brennan, who blamed the Holocaust. Get this. The Holocaust, well, that was because of free speech, only to get obliterated by Marco Rubio on her own show.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship
I have to disagree with
was
you.
specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
So I wonder if Margaret Brennan's tired of getting her lunch eaten by the likes of Marco Rubio there, JD Vance a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, here's one of the more insane clips that you'll see. Today, a Texas church hosted a drag show. Drag, some dude wearing a dress and big hair. For what reason? I have no idea. Again, it's a Texas church. But the drag queen that they allowed to take the podium thought it would be cool or a good idea to threaten the lives of Trump supporters. I'm not kidding you. Listen.
By the way, if any of y'all voted for Trump, please don't tell us. No, don't tell us. Or do, and do y'all sacrifice? Do y'all do that? Did we start? He voted for Trump?
No, I said the church's statement.
Okay, because I will kill him.
Yeah, pick a fist fight with Greg Abbott. I would punch him. I would kill him. What's with these trannies? They're so violent. Dude, relax. Put a dress on. Chill. You're not acting like a normal woman. You're acting like a uptight dude that can't figure out his own junk. Democrats truly hate progress, obviously. Here's a TikToker who feels entitled enough to go online and call for the assassination of Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
Listen, all the Elon Trump stuff, it's getting to a point, man. It's getting like somebody is going to have to, preferably someone who's already doing it, you know, so one of y'all. But somebody's going to have to just throw their life away on this one, you know. Just kind of take one for the team, you know, just somebody has got to just, you know, kind of get in there and go make history. You know who you are. You know who you are. So just buck up and do your duty, you know. I
got an idea. Punk, whoever the hell you are, why don't you try it? Why don't you try and roll up on the motorcade, packing some heat, see what happens? I think you should try it. You know, make some history, right? That's what you're saying. Make some history, dude. We wish you well, as they used to say when they fire people at Fox and other places. So Goya, we've been talking about Goya. Goya Cares is a great part of the Goya family. In 2021, Goya launched Goya Cares, a global initiative to protect children and educate children on mental health. Goya Cares is providing schools and community centers with a preventative education curriculum and a free assembly that includes the viewing of the Goya Cares movie called Press Pause. Press Pause is intended to raise awareness regarding mental health issues, abuse, and bullying among children, teens, and in our communities. Press Pause is an educational film following 15-year-old Sofia Rodriguez as she navigates adolescence, self-doubt, and an abusive relationship amid her parents' turbulent divorce set within the cultural context of her Hispanic family. The film explores her discomfort with unwanted attention from her uncle and the pressures of maintaining a facade of perfection in high school. It introduces the Press Pause campaign, promoting kindness and advocacy, highlighted by Sophia leaving a note saying, "You matter," for a bullied peer. The film encourages open family communication about mental health and culminates in Sophia's transformative realization of her right to seek help. Through the power of empathy and small acts of kindness, Press Pause displays the importance of being proactive in supporting one's community and underscores the critical importance of self-advocacy. Alrighty, folks, time for today's Truth Bomb. Pop, pop, pop. I love that animation. Pop, pop, pop. So the globalist minions in Europe held an emergency meeting today to talk about Ukraine, led by the ultimate globalist leader, French President Emmanuel Macron. Triggered by Vice President JD Vance's visit and President Trump's moves to end the Ukraine war by launching discussions with Russian President Vladimir Putin to do so. Europe was met with a new truth known very well now to America and Americans, thanks to President Donald Trump, and that is this. We're tired. America is tired of funding your stupid, endless wars. Where are you? You do it. We're tired of it. And our president will show strength and resolve to end it. Well, Europe's reaction, prolong, continue, and that tells you everything you need to know. By the way, a continent that lived through not one but two world wars within 50 years until we saved our ass twice. So my thinking is this: if the UK wants to send boots on the ground in Ukraine in reaction, let them. Good news. Great. We don't have to do it. If Europe wants to send more money to Ukraine in absence of U.S. funding, go for it. If they're so damn adamant about keeping it going, despite our efforts to put an end to it, let them. It's about damn time they stepped up in the war that they're so happy to prolong. In the meantime, here's our truth, America's truth. We now have a president who sees peace as a reward to American Americans, which seems to front most of the bill for these types of endless wars. We're tired of it. And to the world, we want to see peace now. We're tired of spending on your wars. The potential discussions between Trump and Putin triggered this reaction from Zelensky, who ran to NBC News, of course, to plead his case.
I will never accept any decisions between the United States and Russia about Ukraine. Never. And our people, never.
Is that right, Vlad? Zelensky, not Putin. Is that right? So let me just set that up. So Trump sends Marco Rubio and Steve Witkoff, a great negotiator, to Saudi Arabia tomorrow to meet with Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister from Russia. They're going to meet, and they're going to set up a meeting between Putin and Trump. And this is huge. It's big. It's the way you're going to end that conflict, that war between Russia and Ukraine. You're not going to go to Zelensky and end it. You got to go to Putin. Trump went right to the top. He's going to get Putin on his side. They're going to cut a deal, and Zelensky's going to have to take it. Or we're going to back off and let Europe finance the crap, the defense, the security for the most corrupt country on the planet in Ukraine. My guess is they'll take a third, quarter of the country, Russia, everyone goes away. So even if there's a peace plan put forth, Zelensky is saying no go. And the globalists who love stifling free speech and apparently also love endless wars, well, they want to keep it going. Then I say this war is theirs and entirely theirs. And the blood is entirely on their hands moving forward. All right, get this. Get this. Ready for this? Free speech started World War II. Now, let me say that again. Free speech enabled the Nazi regime and kicked off World War II. Now, have you ever heard of something so asinine and ridiculous in your entire life? Well, according to CBS's leftist propaganda poster child, Margaret Brennan, that's it.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you.
Now, first of all, it doesn't surprise me that someone from CBS, Margaret Brennan, not the sharpest tool in the shed, saying that free speech started World War II, free speech is the reason for Nazis and the Holocaust? Are you nuts, Margaret? There are so many things wrong with that statement. What she's saying, that Secretary of State Marco Rubio's shocked reaction doesn't even begin to cover it.
Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
First of all, what was that total moron Margaret Brennan reacting to in that statement? Well, she's reacting to Vice President JD Vance's speech at the Munich Security Conference last week. Vance told European leaders that the biggest threat to Europe's security is the threat from within Europe. He talked about the current political culture in Europe, tamping down dissent, often in the name of combating misinformation, because politicians worry their power will be eroded if they don't. It was harsh, Vance was, but truthful. And can you imagine the Orwellian left on both sides of the Atlantic absolutely hated it?
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within, the retreat of Europe from some of its most fundamental values, values shared with the United States of America. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that. In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
Well, it certainly sets the tone, doesn't it? But here's what Margaret Brennan and all of her Orwellian cohorts really didn't like, and what she was alluding to in a ridiculous statement about Germany.
When political leaders represent an important constituency, it is incumbent upon us to at least participate in dialogue with them. Now, to many of us on the other side of the Atlantic, it looks more and more like old entrenched interests hiding behind ugly Soviet-era words like misinformation and disinformation, who simply don't like the idea that somebody with an alternative viewpoint might express a different opinion or, God forbid, vote a different way or, even worse, win an election.
I mean, we as Americans experience this ourselves right here in this very country. Joe Biden, his puppet masters, Barack Obama and Hillary, and his entire Communist Party of Democrats tried like hell to censor social media to prevent any of us from spreading any differing opinions than the ones they were happy with and liked. Allowed them to control us. Remember the disinformation task force. Remember Mayorkas put it together? It was going to be a task force that decided what on social media was information and disinformation, and they were going to censor us. They're all liberals. They're all liberal Democrats on that panel, and they were going to censor what they didn't think was legit. Can you imagine how wrong they were about COVID, how wrong they were about Joe Biden's health and cogency? It screamed George Orwell. It screamed 1984. And the more screaming about it we did, the quicker that so-called task force was dismantled. In Germany, the very same thing is happening. For fear of differing political opinions, they're silencing anyone who says anything the government doesn't like. And what our VP was simply saying is that if you don't defend democracy and free speech in your own country, then we aren't aligned with you. And we can't and won't defend you. Damn, that's good. America's back. Defending our ideals is back. And, well, the truth clearly made the Germans cry.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
He's crying. There's no crying. There's no crying in communism, you fool. What the hell Are those tears about Das Snowflake? JD Vance, showing real American leadership, calls out Europeans, calls them out for outright rejecting democracy, for claiming to value democracy while actively working to overturn an election. And they're literally in tears, crying about it. Think about this. The chairman of the Munich Security Conference breaks down in tears, not over the Islamist car ramming attack in Munich that morning that killed a mother and her daughter. No, that didn't bother him. But because JD Vance hurt his feelings. Which brings me back to Margaret Brennan, who already has her own history with JD Vance, which may have a little something to do with it.
No, and that was a very particular case. It wasn't clear if he was radicalized when he got here or while he was living here.
I don't really care, Margaret. I don't want that person in my country, and I think most Americans agree with me.
Yep, I don't really care, Margaret, but clearly Margaret really cares. JD, clearly Margaret cares a whole lot about censorship, Mr. Vice President, and about so-called misinformation because?
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide.
I can't not believe my ears every single time I hear it. Is that how triggered Margaret Brennan was by I don't really care, Margaret? That she, who sits on one of the highest paid news desks in the business, would say something so historically illiterate and so condescendingly, by the way. It's so wild. Vance himself responded on X, writing, quote, "This is a crazy exchange. Does the media really think the Holocaust was caused by free speech?" I'm going to, take a step further and say what a disgraceful and disgusting insult to the millions, 6 million plus victims of the Holocaust and the families to this day still struggling with what they did in Nazi Germany. I don't think Rubio went far enough to embarrass Brennan for what she said. But you know what? I'm actually glad she said what she did because it gives actual proof of what kind of hacks these people are. Margaret Brennan is given some kind of position of authority and influence and was somehow elevated far beyond her stature, her abilities. And there she is, revealing her truth, her idiocy, her inner thoughts. These are the people, and I'm talking to the legacy media here, right? I came from there, 18 years there. These are the people who not only spout damaging BS, but they also do it perched so high in their ivory towers, and they do it with this condescension. Margaret Brennan delivered that like it was fact. It was fact. Free speech started World War II. Free speech caused the Holocaust, is what she said. She's nuts. People were murdered because Hitler shut down freedom of speech and replaced it with his propaganda media. Margaret, CBS, get it? And Hitler and his propaganda media were responsible for brainwashing millions into murdering millions. That's how afraid they are of free speech and dissenting opinions. It didn't work. Comparing Trump to Hitler, they tried. Calling MAGA fascists, they tried. So now they're saying that free speech led to the Holocaust. That's exactly the kind of thinking George Orwell warned us about, by the way, the erosion of freedom and the dangers of censorship. But wait, there's more. Here's what Margaret also said prior to her dangerous Holocaust comments.
He mentioned that car ramming in Munich recently conducted by an Afghan migrant as an example of what he says is out of control migration. He says that's proof you've got to bring immigration skeptics into the government.
Proof of what he says is out of control migration. Oh, I'm sorry, Margaret. So what she's saying is that an Afghan migrant who commits terror by driving his car into innocent bystanders is just fine. No chance, no change needed whatsoever. Keep the status quo. Because we can let a few citizens die here and there. Let's not disrupt the whole thing. Bring in angry terrorists to kill people with their cars. Who cares? But wait, there's even more. Just days after VP Vance calls out Europeans for their anti-speech laws, CBS News says censorship is, well, wonderful, wunderbar.
In the United States, most of what anyone says, sends, or streams online, even if it's hate-filled or toxic, is protected by the First Amendment as free speech. But Germany is trying to bring some civility to the World Wide Web by policing it in a way most Americans could never imagine.
Germany is trying to bring some civility to the World Wide Web by censoring some speech. Copy. Let me get this straight. Hate-filled or toxic speech is decided by whom? Oh, the government. But what she and the leftist machine she represented say that calling out illegal migrants who commit crimes is what, hate-filled or toxic? I'm a bigot for calling out an Islamist who ran over a woman and her daughter and killed them both? And how stupid it is to allow those millions upon millions of Islamists, radical Islamists, into the continent of Europe, unvetted, unchecked, just because you don't want to seem like you're bigots, right? Good luck with that. Because the left deems it so. That's what they say. And what she's also saying on behalf of the leftist machine is that what Germany is doing sounds, well, wunderbar, about right. Well, let's let her finish, shall we?
In an effort, it says, to protect discourse, German authorities have started prosecuting online trolls. And as we saw, it often begins with a pre-dawn wake-up call from the police.
Ah, yes, got it. And then they showed such a raids proudly as a representative of the Orwellian leftist machine would do, because this is what the media wants. This is what Joe Biden wanted too. Opinions on COVID, on illegal immigration, on anything that they didn't want, they wanted them shut down. And then they glorified the German censorship machine for all of America to see, like good little leftist propagandas that they are.
The worst of the internet is wrapped in red case folders, stuffed with printouts of online slurs, threats, and hate.
This is a criminal offense, so.
What does that say?
Kletterpark for Flüchtlinge.
So they're suggesting that the refugee children play in the electrical wires. Okay.
In this case, the accused had to pay 3,750 euros.
Wow.
It's not a parking ticket.
Yeah, not a parking ticket.
So if you disagree with the refugee situation, you're going to get censored. But wait, there's more.
Is it a crime to insult somebody in public?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
And it's a crime to insult them online as well?
Yes.
The fine could be even higher if you insult someone in the internet.
Why?
Because in internet, it stays there.
If somebody posts something that's not true, and then somebody else reposts it or likes it, are they committing a crime?
Yeah, in the case of reposting, it is a crime as well.
Okay, I'm about to commit a crime in England or Germany, wherever the hell they were. You three clowns, you're idiots, you're morons, you're dunces, you're more. You don't have you couldn't break 100 with your IQ combined to 3, you idiots. And you know what? I'm going to put it up on social media. So the next time I go to Germany, if I ever do, which I never want to, arrest me. A crime for insulting. Can you imagine that? A crime for insulting someone. And by the way, who's the judge of whether it's insulting? I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to go with JD Vance's reaction right here. Quoting, insulting someone is not a crime. And criminalizing speech is going to put real strain on European-U.S. relationships. This is Orwellian, and everyone in Europe and the United States must reject that lunacy. I know this much. They tried this BS here in America back in 2022 under Joe Biden. They masked it as trying to find Russian election interference and disinformation. It lasted all of 3 weeks because we called them out. We are American. This is a new America, in fact, under Donald Trump. We're back to standing up for, I don't know, the Constitution, First Amendment, free speech. I'm allowed to think that guy's an asshole and not go to jail for it because it's a crime to insult him. Standing firm on our principles. And any country that doesn't like that, or any country that doesn't also stand up for those same ideals of democracy, they don't deserve our money, our security, our protection. They don't deserve us at all, period. I really don't care, Margaret, either, because that's what the golden age, the new golden age of America is all about. All right, let's just say Caitlin Collins isn't doing well under the Trump administration, or rather, she isn't taking it so well now that Trump is paying her back for how she handled that infamous CNN town hall.
Can I talk?
Yeah, what's the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'm telling you.
Well, then he got to her again. Watch.
Mr. President, you won the White House in part because of high inflation. If your tariffs make prices go up...
Excuse me, we haven't asked you to speak yet, please.
Ooh, so now Caitlin just can't handle President Trump's baller move, sticking to the legacy media by hanging a framed picture of his mugshot for all to see before they enter the Oval Office. Watch this.
Not only have we never had a U.S. president with a mugshot, I'm not sure we've ever had a mugshot hanging outside of the Oval Office before. But that is where President Trump has placed his from when he was indicted in Fulton County, Georgia, for his efforts to overturn the election.
Loud and proud. There you go. Just put that mugshot right outside the Oval Office. There's a little desk that his Oval Office handler and scheduler sit at. And then there's a little entranceway. There's a little thing on the wall. In fact, I put it up on the YouTube channel. Some of the other things we saw inside the White House and inside the EEOB, the Eisenhower Executive Office building from last week. That's it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, folks. Bowling out.